Could Becky Lynch really be the hottest talent to come into WWE since the Attitude Era? Let's talk about that.
Welcome to the WWE Podcast, your place for the most passionate wrestling analysis on the web.
Just turn Roman heel. What is WWE waiting for?
When other wrestling podcasts put you to sleep, you can count on the WWE Podcast to keep you engaged and asking for more.
I've been watching wrestling for over 20 years, and that was one of the best matches I've ever seen.
If you're easily offended, this may not be the show for you.
Whatever happened to the men being able to physically retaliate against the women in WWE? This is a fantasy environment.
This is unlike any other wrestling analysis. So without any further delay, let's get the show started right now.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. This is the WWE Podcast. I'm your host, as you may have guessed, and thank you for joining me on this Thursday, February 7th, 2019. It's WrestleMania season. There's no shortage of news, and at the open, you guys heard me say, is Becky Lynch the hottest superstar to come into WWE since the Attitude Era? And I tweeted that out earlier this week as well and got some responses and some people that disagreed and gave me names that are hotter than Becky Lynch, and I've got some things to say about that. And those of you that are also debating me on Twitter about Nia Jax, I've got some comments for you as well. And so it's going to be a very intense show, one that I think you're going to want to stay tuned to. And I was supposed to do this live, and unfortunately Blog Talk Radio is giving me a bit of a hassle, so my apologies for those of you who may have clicked on that link. And yeah, I tried. It gave me about 5 seconds of on-air time and kicked me off. So I'm going to try to redo that for a Sunday show where I'll be conversing with you guys and giving you some insight into wrestling and bringing you guys on the show. And I think that'll be a fun deal. And my What If segment, that'll be for my Patreon followers as well. Those of you who are on there and are patrons of the show, I do appreciate it because you guys get some cool benefits like ad-free. Yeah, ad-free is always good. Ad-free is always a good thing. I don't think anybody likes to listen to ads. And if you come across them, you do what I do. You see that skip button? At least in Apple Podcasts, there's a skip ahead 15 seconds button, and that is my ad skipper. So, but if you don't want ads at all, you don't even have to bother yourself with that. You can go to patreon.com/WWE Podcast, and you can get yourself an ad-free version of the show. And you can also get on the show. You get a shout out on the show. You can create your own show. You can come on the show and we can talk about wrestling for as long as you'd like. And that's a really cool deal. And video reviews are on the way. I know I mentioned that this last week, and they're on the way. I'm just trying to fit it into my schedule. And maybe what I'll do, as I'm really thinking out loud, is do video reviews of my show while I'm recording it. So what I'll do is just set up my camera and do a video feed of the show and stick it on my Patreon feed so you guys can see me recording the show, which, hey, maybe you don't want to see what I look like. Maybe you don't care what I look like. I don't know. Maybe that's a good or bad thing. I'm not sure, but that's maybe what I'll do for those of you who are patrons of the show. I'll make that exclusive for Patreon, and I think that'll be a cool deal. So thank you guys once again for joining me, and let's just get to the first thing that I mentioned and not waste any time, and that is Becky Lynch. Is she the hottest act to come into WWE since the Attitude Era? That's a loaded question, because you got some really good names that since the Attitude Era died in the mid-2000s, and we transitioned into the ruthless aggression era that have come across our screen and have graced us with their presence and have made a massive impact since they debuted. And look, I think the biggest name that you could debate me on is CM Punk. CM Punk, who really should not have been and ended up where he was in WWE. I don't think there's any question in anybody's mind that the turning point of his career and what really put him on the map was not his straight edge society, was not him as a commentator, and was not him as the Mr. Money in the Bank that ended up not really going anywhere and being an interim champion. What put him on the map was a promo that he did in Las Vegas. The infamous pipe bomb promo. A promo that I don't think anybody will ever forget, and made him relevant, made the WWE relevant in a time that was, I think, a bit of obscurity for WWE, where they were spinning their wheels and not much fanfare going on at that time. And CM Punk instantly became the biggest star in WWE. So could you debate me intelligently that CM Punk was a bigger star than Becky Lynch? Yeah, you can. You can. And the argument I'm making, and I'm standing by it, is you can also make an argument for Becky Lynch being a possible bigger star than CM Punk is. And what makes her a bigger star than I believe CM Punk, or at least could end up being, she's on the path to becoming a bigger star than CM Punk in WWE, is because she's not just organically connected with the fans, not just started out on a journey that the fans followed, that CM Punk took, that Becky Lynch took, that Daniel Bryan took, and we have followed them through the misbookings and the misuse of their talents. But she's a woman. And whether people believe that's sexist or not, I'm a man saying that because she's a woman may make her a bigger star. Because when you think of WWE, the biggest stars come to mind. Stone Cold, The Rock, Hulk Hogan. But they're stars of yesterday. They are in the WWE signature at the start of the show, they are the then. They're not the now, and they're not the forever. They are the past stars. They are WWE's foundation. But when you think of WWE, you still don't quite think of the women, but you're starting to. When you think of professional wrestling, when the casual fan thinks of professional wrestling, they still yearn for the stars of yesteryear. But I believe that the women have done such an amazing job that they are turning heads in a way that even the casual fan that only tunes into WrestleMania season, the ones that you'll start to see peek in the window now, when it's socially acceptable to start becoming a fan again and paying attention, so when WrestleMania itself comes around, everybody can tweet out on Instagram that they're watching WrestleMania, and it's not it's not social suicide for those of you that believe that watching and being a wrestling fan is social suicide. And so even the casual fan that barely tunes in knows something's going on with the women. And Becky Lynch right now is at the forefront of that. So I believe that while not currently, I maybe should have revised my statement, not currently Becky Lynch, as presently constituted, Becky Lynch is not a bigger star than CM Punk was, but she's on the path to surpassing who he was and did what he did in WWE. I believe that. Now, I think that it's up to Becky Lynch to continue on that trajectory. I also believe that it is in the hands of WWE to put aside their philosophy of not allowing stars to become bigger than WWE. Triple H has gone on record. I saw an interview that he did with I believe it was a wrestling media a number of years ago when he became COO, that John Cena is the last of his kind, meaning that WWE is not going to allow stars to become bigger than the business because it's not best for business, but it's best for the individual. I'm not in favor of this. I think even if the superstar wrestler, boy, I'm talking corporate speak, even if the wrestler becomes bigger than the WWE itself, big deal. Big deal. You know why that's not a big deal? Why that's not a big deal? Because it's called crossover audience. And yes, that star may leave and go do movies, a la The Rock, a la John Cena, who is starting to follow in the footsteps of The Rock. Okay? So you have stars that, they may leave and go do Hollywood and be very successful there, or maybe they do some other kind of a venture and are very successful in that second career that they make. But people will go, isn't that wrestler that used to be in WWE? Well, I mean, what's going on in WWE lately? It may bring in people that have not watched it in a while, or bring in a new audience. So that philosophy of not allowing stars to become bigger than the business is silly. It's silly. And furthermore, back to my point, Becky Lynch is on that trajectory, and it's up to WWE to not suffocate her, not chop the legs off of her momentum. Continue. And it's up to Becky Lynch to continue to reinvent, to continue to evolve. Don't get comfortable. As Jim Ross would say, that comfort zone is the kiss of death. And it is with Becky Lynch. She has never been hotter. Right now, there is not a hotter star in wrestling today than Becky Lynch. So, is she on the way to becoming bigger than CM Punk? I believe so. Is she on the way to becoming bigger than Daniel Bryan? I think she could. I really believe that. People think I'm crazy right now. But I don't think people understand and appreciate what's happening right now. Think about this. Think about it. Let's take a trip down memory lane. Go back to just 5 years ago. 5 years ago. When this women's evolution/revolution was still a dream. NXT, while on the rise, was nowhere near what it's viewed as today as a third brand. And not just a breeding ground for the main roster. Where the Divas Championship was still in existence. And it was an embarrassment to watch the women wrestle, or whatever they called it. I mean, sometimes it was something resembling wrestling on TV, but often more than not, it was a very embarrassing product to be a part of. And the women's matches were tended towards sexuality, or they tended towards cattiness. And it was just, there were barely any storylines. Trish and Lita had left. Okay, it was just kind of in flux, where the women were the intermission between the men's storylines going on. I mean, that's what it was. Let's call it like it is. So this is not, 20 years ago. This is in most of our recent memories. And to think about where we are today with Becky Lynch. And I know that there's a much larger supporting cast than Becky Lynch. Of course. We have Charlotte. We have Asuka. Kairi Sane. We have, yes, Nia Jax, who I cannot stand on Twitter, and I think maybe that's her purpose. But maybe because she reminds me of people that I know in real life that are like the way she acts on Twitter. She's always talking about the haters gonna hate and all this just sophomore garbage. And I'll get to Nia Jax in a minute, and those of you that believe she should be in the men's division. Yeah, I got some stuff to say on that. And people that want to come on this show, more than one, that want to come on this show and debate me about Nia Jax and how it's a good thing that she's in the men, getting involved in men's storylines. Yeah, just take a seat for that one. Just strap in and buckle your seatbelt. So I'll get to that soon. But yes, Nia Jax, Natalya. I mean, the list goes on. Sasha Banks, Bayley. Yes, a lot of these women have been defined down, misbooked, terrible segments. Alexa Bliss. I mean, really, think about all of these women. It's a storm of women in WWE. The women have outperformed the men in WWE for some time now, and Becky Lynch put it over the top to where you had a WWE Evolution pay-per-view that, in my opinion, was one of the best of 2018. It was just wall-to-wall wrestling, kick-ass wrestling. Toni Storm's match was amazing at Evolution. So those of you that aren't even watching NXT on a regular basis got to understand what that next class of women coming up to the main roster is. It was awesome. Think about where we are with women's wrestling. I don't think we understand sometimes that when you can't see the forest through the trees, and when you're in something, you can't see how significant it is until you're out of it, and you can look back and go, wow. Think about how far we've come. I mean, seriously. So Becky Lynch is the face of the women's division, whether you're looking at Raw or SmackDown, it doesn't matter right now. Becky Lynch is the women's division in a lot of cases. And as I said, I'm not I'm not disrespecting any other woman that is kicking ass on either roster right now. That's not what I'm doing, and she has to obviously have a amazing supporting cast, and she does. You can't wrestle yourself. And I know I didn't mention Ronda Rousey because I'm going to speak to her right now. Ronda Rousey is right now at a crossroads. Does WWE pull the trigger and just turn her all out heel? Or do they play that, well, we're going to keep her in a, quote, babyface role and just let her get booed through Becky's program, and then we're just going to, move her on to a more a heel that we know that you'll support her against. And I think that they'll choose path number 2. I mean, yeah, Ronda Rousey addressed on Raw, those of you that are booing me, and she legitimately seemed to be angry with the fans. And I love it. I love it. There's a lot of authenticity and real feelings with Ronda Rousey when she's on screen. You just never know what you're going to get. She's clunky, but articulate in her own way. It's bizarre, but fun to watch. Because you feel like she's out of control in a controlled way on the microphone. Like she's going to snap, but she still keeps it together. It's the most just complex combination of traits that I've ever seen, especially in a new talent. And Ronda Rousey is a new talent in WWE. So I've never seen something like this, and I think that WWE knows, and I just see no other way how they don't know, or they're foolish to not know, or fight against the reign of boos, this tidal wave of boos that is coming Ronda Rousey's way between now and April 6th. And they're foolish to not think otherwise. So, right now, and again, while I'm on the Becky Lynch train, I want to talk a little bit about Monday night. I meant to say April 7th, not April 6th. The storyline on Raw and on SmackDown, I'm on Becky's side. We're all on Becky's side, okay? Becky Lynch could have faced the Pope face-to-face, and she would have gotten cheered. I mean, I believe she's that over right now. Now, is she getting the massive instant pops that Stone Cold and The Rock did? No, she's not. Not yet. That's a very tall order and almost an unfair bar to set. For those of you that think, and a lot of people are comparing her to Stone Cold right now. There are some similar tendencies, her defiance for authority and all that. I get it. But she's a long way from Stone Cold and The Rock. Okay, let's pump the brakes. As much as I just said she could be the hottest talent since the Attitude Era, I did not say she's the hottest talent including the Attitude Era. Let's pump the brakes, okay, for those of you that are getting a little ahead of yourselves. But my point is, on Monday Night Raw, Stephanie McMahon comes out and she says that all I'm asking you to do is just get your leg looked at. And Becky Lynch, that's all she had to do. And so while I really despise Stephanie McMahon, and not just on a she's a TV villain level, on a personal, real level, I really, really don't like Stephanie McMahon, as at least the way she portrays her, quote, real personality as the chief brand operating officer, or chief brand officer, or whatever the hell title she has, making sure that everyone knows WWE is just this wonderful company that does all this charity work, but make sure the cameras are there so that everyone can pat them on the back. I just despise the way that she presents the product now. It's sickening. So that's what I mean by I don't just dislike her because she's a TV villain. I dislike her off camera more, which enhances her TV villain character in my mind. Anyway, so Stephanie McMahon comes out and makes a reasonable request, as any business owner would do with any of their assets, and asks nicely to Becky Lynch, hey, can you just get your knee looked at? That's all I'm asking. I'm not threatening you with a suspension off the bat. Becky Lynch forced her hand. So it wasn't an unreasonable request, and Becky Lynch refused. So that was a little clunky to me. Like, if we're supposed to truly cheer for Becky, I mean, it's not an unreasonable request, right? I mean, you're an athlete. And I know that her logic was, Becky's logic was, this is a setup. You're just trying to get me to go see the doctor so you have an excuse to pull me from WrestleMania. But even if there was an agenda, that's a legitimate reason still. I mean, any performer should be obligated to see the trainer when they're hurt. Or at least the smart ones do. I know that she's trying to save her main event at WrestleMania, but it felt clunky to me. It felt clunky. It didn't feel reasonable on Becky's end. But we're all going to cheer for Becky because right now she's Becky. And I'm fine with that. So I absolve them of that sin because of just how over Becky is, and I just want to see whatever Becky does next. So she ends up attacking Stephanie. Stephanie, of course, has to get the last shot in, which still made me angry. And then Ronda Rousey, as Becky's on her way out of the arena, comes up to her and gives her another kind of just a scalding promo again. And I need Becky Lynch right now, if she wants to continue to sizzle. I need her to retort in a good way. And if she's not able to on the microphone organically, she needs to have some good writers behind her. Because right now, I'm not feeling it. She just gives that look and that smirk and puckers her lips. And that works once in a while. But if you're the babyface, you need to get the last word. You need something. I need her to up the promo a bit. And more of it. I don't need the looks as much. I guess they're relying too much on that. She's a badass look, and she speaks with her actions, not her words, maybe. But Becky can talk. So I don't know what it is with this I guess, bear trap that they have on her voice right now. It feels like they're holding back. Or they're not confident that they can, or she can organically retort to whatever promo is being put against her. I don't know, but it felt like Stephanie McMahon said all this stuff to her, and all she did was respond with a punch, and that's fine. But what I had the most problem with was, as I just said, having her go backstage and run into Ronda Rousey, and Ronda Rousey just eats her up and down, and then, well, be careful my choice of words, just basically rips her a new one, and then Becky Lynch had almost nothing to say, and just puckered her lips and did her the man walk. And that part rubbed me a little bit wrong. Like, she can't say anything? She has nothing witty to say? Nothing? Really? So, please, WWE, give Becky really good material to work with here. I need to feel and see her character on more than just the level of she's got a black jacket, she's a badass, okay, she's fighting through an injury. I need to feel her character on a little bit more of I need more depth in her promos. I need to have her be real in her promos. I don't need her to play the man. I need her to just be the man, be herself. So that's the only tweak I would make. So she comes out on SmackDown and slaps Triple H. And people are speculating, is it going to be Triple H versus Becky? Please, as JR would say, stop the pain. Let's not go there. Let's not go there, please. I do not need to see Becky Lynch versus Triple H. Becky Lynch versus Stephanie, maybe. I mean, that's kind of a nice little pit stop between now and WrestleMania. But with Becky Lynch injured, although we all believe it's a work, with her, quote, air quote, injured right now, I don't know if she is going to be competing. And she's suspended still. So, again, I don't know where they're going with this. But at least that's how long this injury is going to be milked. What the involvement of Stephanie is. I hope there's no shenanigans at WrestleMania, and it's just a one-on-one. And I'm tired of people thinking and speculating, and honestly, the opinion of adding Charlotte to this match is a good thing. If this was SummerSlam, fine. Survivor Series, fine. You don't do it at WrestleMania, especially when the fans have been asking for this for months. And then it gets derailed at Survivor Series, and it builds even hotter. Right now, adding Charlotte would be subtracting to the match. It's actually subtraction by addition. As crazy as that sounds, it is subtraction by addition by adding Charlotte to this match. Adding more talent right now, it's the law of diminishing returns. You've hit the sweet spot with Charlotte or with Becky and Ronda, and you think by adding to Charlotte's credit, she's an amazing athlete, super over, but she's not Becky and Ronda right now. And adding her to this would muddy the waters and the story of Becky and Ronda. Don't do it, please. Please. I just plead with you, WWE. I plead with you. So, maybe they use Becky and Charlotte over the next couple of pay-per-views as the pit stops to WrestleMania. They could add Stephanie in there. There's lots of ways to go. I would like to see the injury kind of go away. It's getting a bit annoying. I just want to see Becky Lynch at 100% raising hell. I know she's the babyface fighting through the injury, and we're supposed to see her climb the mountain with everything she's got and just be a badass and fight through that knee. And I get it, but it's getting a bit tiring. I just want to see her tear stuff up and whoop people's asses. I mean, really, that's what I want to see. I want to see that, and right now she can't because every time I see her on screen, she's limping. So maybe I hope she heals up in a storyline fashion quickly. All right. Just want to talk quickly, guys, about it's a YouTube channel, and it's called The Trio of Lunatics. It's primarily about wrestling, but it's got some really funny content, and I really think you guys should check it out. It's funny, it's entertaining. If you guys are into WWE 2K19, okay, and many of you are, I am, okay, I'm 34 years old, I don't give a damn. I love wrestling, and I love wrestling games all the way back from No Mercy to WWF Attitude, WCW NWO Revenge, all of that. Warzone on N64, all of the WWF Attitude on N64, all the way through SmackDown Live, or SmackDown versus Raw to SmackDown versus Raw 2008, 9, all the way through. So right now, they're doing WWE 2K19 stuff on there, and they've got some really cool matches on there. So I would really recommend that you guys check it out. It's a Trio of Lunatics, and just search for them on YouTube. I'll be tweeting out a link as well on my feed, which, by the way, you can follow me at the WWE Podcast. So check them out, and check out the link on my feed. All right, so let's get into Kurt Angle. And right now, Kurt Angle is also at a crossroads. Lots of crossroads going on right now. And Kurt Angle, we all assumed, and the announcers did too, which makes me always speculate that my logic is sound when the announcers are also thinking the same thing I am, because typically the announcers are the biggest buffoons in terms of logic and reverse psychology, actually the worst example of reverse psychology in the world. However, Kurt Angle, I believe, we all believed, or speculated, that Kurt Angle was going to come out there and give his retirement and say he's done, he's hanging up his boots. But he was interrupted by Baron Corbin and then by Drew McIntyre, and they ended up having a tag match with Braun Strowman. And so Kurt Angle is about half the speed he was. I think we all know that Kurt Angle is nowhere near the competitor he was even 5 years ago. And he's just, about 2 steps behind where he was. His speed is, I think, the worst thing. His speed and flexibility is really what I think is hurting him, not his strength. I don't think his strength is the problem. It's his speed and his flexibility that he's really just lost over time. And as he said, it's Father Time, and he's absolutely right. I mean, Father Time is something nobody can escape. And so what I don't understand in this whole thing is, I tweeted this out too, I just... Who decided that the finish of this match should be a disqualification of the non-legal man hitting the legal man in the match of the opposing team? Since when is that a disqualification? I mean, really? How is this a disqualification? I'm not following this. Since when is that illegal? I mean, it may be illegal, but it's not cause for a disqualification. If that was the case, every single pinfall in which your teammate saved you from by hitting your opponent in the back would be a disqualification. Okay, it's just ridiculous. I said, wait, what? What's a disqualification? Did he use a weapon? Did he not break the 5 count? I mean, what's next? We're going to see a disqualification for a closed fist next week? I mean, that's where it's headed. And if that's the case, I mean, I mean, imagine if they made that illegal and enforced it, because it actually technically is illegal. How is a legal closed fist, legal in WWE? How is it possible? Anyway, so that's where we're headed, and I don't know who came up with that. I'm not sure. I don't even know what to say about it other than that didn't see that finish coming. Okay, didn't see that finish coming. So let's get a little bit to Nia Jax. And okay, first of all, her social media, as I mentioned, this is not a social media rant about how terrible she is on social media and how obnoxious she is on social media. And I really don't think that that's her playing her heel up offline. I think that's her being her, which makes it even more terrible of all these haters, all you haters, and throwing gifs up about how haters don't matter and brushing them off. Number one, if you're addressing haters, they bother you. Okay, if you didn't, you wouldn't even give them the time of day to address them. I don't even care if it's just in a macro level. If they really didn't bother you, you wouldn't be talking about them, okay? And so this is not a rant on her social media awfulness, okay? Even though, okay, you follow Nia? Yeah, I follow Nia on Twitter, okay? I'm a wrestling fan, okay? Of course. I just think as a person, she's obnoxious as hell, and I mean that in a real sense. And as a heel, great. It makes you more money because you just be yourself on TV and we all hate you. So it's actually kind of a backhanded compliment. But when we get back into the fantasy land of WWE television, those of you who believe that there should be male versus female matches, and look, I'm a proponent of men being able to retaliate against women. Listen to my open. Listen to my damn intro. I am a proponent of it. Men should not stand there and just, oh, well, she's a woman and she slapped me so I can't retaliate. Nonsense. Number one, this is a wrestling environment. We all should. And we all saw it at the Royal Rumble. And good for Randy Orton being able to retaliate and Ziggler giving her a super kick and Rey Mysterio giving her a 619. She deserved all of it. She should have gotten no offense. Zero. Number one, she shouldn't even have been in the damn Rumble to begin with. Oh, and she said, I broke boundaries at the Royal Rumble. No, you broke the rules at the Royal Rumble, Nia. That's what you did. You broke the rules. You didn't break boundaries at the Rumble. Seriously. That's probably half of how she sounds, okay? But to believe that if it's booked right, that Nia versus male superstars is believable. Has anybody read anything scientifically related about men versus women? I mean, I don't mean this in a sexist way. Unless you're Ronda Rousey or you're a trained fighter, you most likely cannot successfully defeat a man in a fight. That's just the way it is. It's not sexist. It's fact. It's fact. And furthermore, say that my assumption is wrong. Say my assumption is wrong and that men versus women is on equal footing, and Nia can beat certain men on the roster. Even if that's the case, where are you going with Nia? Are you going to have her win the Intercontinental Championship? Are you going to have her go for the Universal title? So she suddenly doesn't belong in the women's division, or are we all dissolving gender as just this malleable thing that we can all just change because of how we identify? Oh, and don't worry, I'm sure we'll get an LGBTQ superstar sooner rather than later. And look, I'm not against any of it. I just know it's coming. And the first openly gay superstar, the first openly whatever superstar, whatever the new hot button issue is of the day, I'm sure we'll get it in WWE at some point, and whatever. It is what it is there. But I'm sure that if people were to say, well, she identifies as a man. Well, great. So I identify as a lamp. I'm going to tell you I'm a lamp. Because to believe that you can just decide you identify as a gender that you're not is a lie. It's a straight out lie. It's biological basics. Okay, now I'm getting into political stuff. But I got to back the track to Nia here. So if in the just ridiculous assumption that she can compete with the men on Raw, number one, that's a slap in the face to the women's division that she is above them. And you would say, well, she's a heel. She's supposed to act arrogant. Yeah, in her own world. You don't cross worlds into the men's division. You just don't do it. And to believe that she could just eliminate a man entering a Rumble illegally as a woman, and yeah, we've seen it with China. That doesn't make it right. I'm not saying it hasn't happened before. That's not the argument. The argument is it shouldn't have happened ever. Ever. I don't care if she's on the outside distracting a man and you have another male competitor eliminate that superstar, fine. But you can't just... What if this? What would you do if you had a male superstar enter the female Royal Rumble? People would have been up in arms. You would have had a revolt. You would have had the building burned down. Oh, they're ruining the women's Royal Rumble. Oh, my God. Oh, of course a man has to do that and overshadow the women. But it's okay for a woman to enter the men's Royal Rumble. Think about this, too. You want to take it a step further? Think about any sport, any competitive professional sport in the world. In the world. Not just the United States, not just the NBA, NFL, MLB. I'm talking about in the world. And you have a male enter a female competition. Or for that matter, you have a woman, a female competitor on the WNBA, step on the court of the LA Lakers and play with LeBron James. You don't think someone would say something? You think that's just okay? Because we're all supposed to be on equal footing. We're all just supposed to be... That's not reality. That's a nice fantasy land, soft environment that you go to for people who can't handle reality. But you can't do it. So for for Nia Jax to enter herself into the men's world, fine. She wants to do that in a fantasy land. I know that, of course, this is all just in WWE. But if she wants to enter herself into the men's world, if I were writing this stuff, I would have her get her ass whooped every time she does it because she doesn't belong. She's a woman. I don't care how she identifies, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean these days, whatever ridiculous pronoun she wants to be called, which I don't even want to get started on that. That's not the issue. The issue is she's a woman, and so far I believe she identifies as a woman, and she is getting herself involved in a men's world. And I would just have her get her ass whooped every single time she does. I would have her just take a finisher every single time she gets involved in there. I would. Because where are you going? What's the destination for Nia Jax? What's the destination? Tell me. Oh, well, she can compete with the men, so she could dominate the women. Well, go dominate the women. Stay the hell out of the men's division. Really. There's no believability there. Well, she could compete. Could she actually probably, in a actual fight, beat any of the men on the roster? Maybe. Maybe a very small fraction. Maybe. But where are you going? Again, if the goal is to, and this is the only goal you could give me that is intelligent, half intelligent, of, well, she wants to just, she's already beaten up everybody in the women's division. Well, number one, no, she hasn't. And, well, we want to make sure she's established as a dominant figure that can not just beat up the women, but can hang with the men. Okay, well, again, even if she were to compete in a men's match, which is ridiculous, where are you going? What does that prove? You can't win the Universal title. Okay, that would be asinine. There's no destination. There's no destination. And if you were to tell me that, well, she's beating all the women, no, she hasn't. Ronda Rousey beat her. You don't see the Ronda Rousey sticking her nose in the men's division. Well, she competed with Triple H. Yeah, she did at WrestleMania. But that was believable. You know why that was believable? Because she became the hottest MMA star in history. And she legitimately could beat the hell out of half the guys on the roster. But you don't have Nia Jax, who all she has is her size. That's it. Period. Her size, how she looks, that's all she's got. In terms of qualifications to be in the ring with a man. In terms of, okay, well, you're in the right weight class. You may qualify with the weight class. And don't tell me, oh, it's offensive. No. She wants to be treated as, I'm not the same as everybody else. I don't dress like everybody else. I'm not like most girls. You know what? You're not. You're not. But you're still a girl. And you belong in the women's division. So, I'm going to end that rant there with Nia Jax. So, and any of you who you think you can intelligently debate me, how Ronda Rousey, why do I keep saying that? Nia Jax, how she can legitimately, and the reasoning for it, not just if she could, but why? Where's the destination? What is the purpose of having Nia Jax in the men's division? I would love to talk to you. There's nothing there. And like I said, put her in the men's division, have her take a finisher every single time. Because that's how it should end. Okay. Let's continue on here. Samoa Joe. Boy, they reestablished him on SmackDown Live. At least they are attempting to. Having him choke out Randy Orton. And several other stars that are in that Elimination Chamber match. I thought it was good. I think Samoa Joe's sadly underused. It's criminal how sadly underused that Samoa Joe has been. So it's a great way to reestablish him in a potential competitor or a potential winner of the Elimination Chamber. Although, like I said, I don't think anybody believes that Daniel Bryan's dropping that belt anytime soon. We all love the hemp belt, whether he's a heel or not. It's just this. It's cool. I mean, it's a cool belt. It's very unique looking, fits his character, and as I said last week, it's cool. It's a cool belt. And if WWE finds a way to replicate that and sell it on WWEshop.com, they're gonna make a killing. It's good stuff. It's really good stuff. The other thing, Rollins' injury, as I mentioned a little bit in my last show, Rollins' injury is a bit concerning that he's not competing, but I think it's more precautionary and to not exacerbate the issue of whatever is going on with Rollins. So hopefully that works out. EC3, by the way, EC3 and Dean Ambrose segment. Look, we all know Dean Ambrose is there to put over guys on his way out. That's just what you do in the wrestling business. I mean, you go back to any wrestling promotion almost ever, especially in like New Japan, any of the territories, Mid-South territory. When you're on your way out, you do the favors for the guys that are going to be there. I mean, it's etiquette. It's what you do. So I don't expect Dean Ambrose to get in anything involved in anything long term. I think the fans know he's there to put guys over. But as far as the match with EC3, it didn't seem like it really did anything for either guy. I mean, you blinked and it was over. So EC3 also almost had no mic time. Actually, he didn't have any mic time. So that really didn't do anything to establish EC3. It looked like he got a fluke win over Dean. It didn't show anything that EC3 could do in the ring. And Alexa's comment about EC3's bank account, what does that have to do with anything? That was weird. Just weird. Yeah, that was not the best segment of Raw. I will just say that. So, Raw overall I enjoyed. I think the highlight was Stephanie McMahon getting beat. Obviously, I mean, we had Finn Balor and Lio Rush. Why Finn Balor is on an even playing field. I don't know why every match has to be on a level playing field. Like, you beat me up, I beat you up, you beat me up, I beat you up, and I'm going to the finish. That's not how a real fight ever goes. Ever. I know it's entertainment, but fool me once in a while. And I know that Bobby Lashley attacked Finn Balor before the match, but it's Lio Rush. Lio Rush, who's been defined down as the spokesman of Lashley, went toe-to-toe with Finn Balor, a guy that nearly beat Brock Lesnar. That made no sense. Jeff Jarrett and Elias, yikes. I mean, I don't know what they're doing with this. I really don't. It's yeah, I don't even know. And I've seen both guys. I've watched both guys during my career, and it just really didn't do anybody any favors. I don't know what they're doing. I really don't. I'll just leave it there. So, again, on SmackDown, I did touch on some things. Gallows and Anderson versus Rusev. Rusev and Nakamura, they ended up defeating the Good Brothers. So apparently they're like a team now, even though Nakamura said, I'll team with you one time. I think it's going to be more than one time. Maybe they're establishing tag teams. A lost art in professional wrestling in 2019. So I'm fine with that. Rusev and Nakamura, who, man, they're just both lost souls right now. And that's really unfortunate and crazy to say, but they are. So maybe putting them together, be able to catch lightning in a bottle. Mustafa Ali and Randy Orton, surprisingly really good match. Really good match and it's not just props to Mustafa Ali. I gotta give props to Randy Orton, who drives, 55 miles an hour in a 55 mile an hour zone half the time and just kind of coasts through things, and you can tell it's not 100% effort because he wants to he wants to be around for a while. He's interested in preserving his longevity, and more power to him. He's trying to make as much money as he can, and I don't blame him. That's what you do. But for him to when he puts in the effort, you can tell he's putting in that extra effort and going to that next gear. You can see it. And when he was in that ring with Mustafa Ali, he put it into that next gear. And it was a very good match. Very good match. Mustafa Ali brought it, as he should. I'm sure he was more motivated as the hungry young guy to prove himself against a legacy star like Randy Orton. But Randy Orton, when he wants to turn it on, he still can. And I got to give both men props. The RKO was really cool. I don't believe I've ever seen that spot as far as the transition into the RKO before. So very cool. I really, really enjoyed that match much more than I thought I would. That I thought would just be kind of a standard 10 to 12 minute main event that ends up, just kind of Randy Orton with a rear chin lock on his opponent in the ring for half the time. And that's not what we got. We got a very good, I wouldn't say classic, but very entertaining, believable, kept me engaged match that I can't say happens all the time. And so, bravo to both guys. So that's what I wanted to say. I ended on a high note here. I thought it was a solid week of shows for WWE. I don't think they knocked it out of the park. Again, I would like to see Becky get a little more promo, a little more wit, get a little more of a last word in instead of just standing there with her lips puckered. That's what she needs right now. That's a tweak she needs. Hopefully the knee injury gets resolved and we can see all out Becky Lynch and we don't get this hobbling version of herself. And again, guys, thank you for joining me. I hope you enjoyed the show. You can follow me on Twitter at the WWE Podcast. You can check me out on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, anywhere really I'm available for your listening pleasure. And again, I'll be back Sunday. I'm going to be doing a show on Sunday for the What If segment and maybe a live show or maybe both. Maybe I'll combine them. We'll see. But stay tuned to my Twitter feed. And if you want the ad-free experience, getting a shout out on the show, getting on the show, and video reviews and exclusive audio and ad-free stuff, go to patreon.com/WWE podcast and you can check it out there. And I'm going to be maybe guys, I'm working on a guest for Monday who is a WWE employee. So I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to count my chickens before they hatch, but I'm working on getting an interview for Monday next week. And hopefully we can. If we can't, cool. I'll still do my typical reviews for next week and bring you guys on board and try to do more live shows. But I just want to give you a sneak peek of what's down the line. So thank you guys for joining me. As always, I'll talk to you next time.